Hello everyone and welcome to another wonderful game that you guys recommended also from Title Tuesday. It is jefferyx versus GukeshDommaraju, and it's a story of surprises. Surprises are usually very good in chess. If you manage to surprise your opponent will either lose the game on the spot or maybe blunder terribly or maybe even just burn more time. Even if he manages to survive and defend, okay, later you will have more time to play an endgame or to find a solution to something that really requires time. So surprises are good. They can be pretty bad if your opponent is a world champion and your surprise is not all that impressive. And that's kind of the story of this game. So yeah, let's check it out. Gukesh, world champion, faces jefferyx, also a very, very talented young player. He's currently 25. He became a grandmaster at 14, one of the youngest ever in the US history. And yeah, just a very strong player all around. As you can see, he is even higher rated than Gukesh on chess.com. So let's see this brilliancy. Jeffrey with white opens with pawn to c4. Sorry about that. He opts for the English opening. We have pawn to e5 and knight to c3. And here you have a couple of very, very interesting options. You could go knight f6, you could go knight to c6, or you could go bishop to b4. There are some other moves you could consider, but those are the main three lines: knight f6 and knight to c6. Can lead to the four knights of the English and bishop to b4. This is the Kramnik counterattack or the Kramnik-Shirov counterattack, which can get very sharp very early on. And this is usually met with knight to d5. It is by far the most played move. Sometimes you can also ignore it, just play pawn to g3, or you can play something like queen to c2, maybe pawn to d4. But pawn to d4, even though modern engines say that it's perfectly playable, it's even the second top move recommended by the engine, you don't see it in top level games. In fact, even in low level games, there are maybe 5 games altogether where this was played, as it just doesn't give you all that much. And I'm gonna call it now. As of move 3, we have a completely new game. Like I said, there are some games in the database, but nowhere near grandmaster level. So for grandmaster level games, this is a new position. And the idea is basically that you're trying to take advantage of the bishop already being developed. So if black captures, which is usually a good idea, black doesn't have the usual knight to c6 move that attacks the queen. You win a tempo, then you continue development because the g7 pawn is hanging. So after d4, Gukesh just goes knight to c6. He says, all right, I'm going to capture on d4 next unless you do something. So you could defend it, knight f3, maybe invite e4. You could play pawn to d5, or you could play what was played in the game, and that is d captures on e5. Okay, Gukesh recaptures and queen to c2. We have knight to f6, and now the question is how to continue. How can Jeffrey continue? Well, the safe way to continue would be something like knight to f3, or you can even challenge the bishop right away. There's no reason to allow that bishop to remain there, and you already have a queen on c2. So even if black captures, you have a nice attack on the knight. If queen to e7, you can now play knight f3, and then you can also capture with the queen. So even that is fine. And if pawn to d6, you can play knight captures on e5. Sorry, my phone is listening to me for some reason. You can play knight captures on e5 and queen captures on e5. Queen captures on e5, check, d captures, and let's say pawn to g3. You think at your light square bishop, and the game continues. It's a fine position for both white and black. Interestingly, a couple of times already my phone started listening to me while I'm recording the video, and then you guys said that your phone also started listening to you. Obviously, I say something that triggers it. I have no idea what it is. So knight f6 and pawn to e4, just allowing the bishop to remain there and playing, just a very, very open chess with your king still being in the center of the board. Okay, Gukesh castles kingside. We have bishop to d2. Now the knight is no longer pinned, and rook to e8. So just rapid development, as it makes sense. The king is still in the center of the board. I know I already used this quote in the previous video, but Gukesh playing such open chess, just every move is a piece development. I decided to leave it for this one as well. We have pawn to f3, now strengthening on e4, also makes sense, and pawn to c6. Gukesh is now ready to strike with d5, as he does have pressure against that knight on c3. Castles queenside and the immediate pawn to d5. And here is probably your last chance of going a3 or king b1, because you have to do something about that. But here c captures on d5 is played, c captures, and now knight captures on d5, and Jeffrey's position is now lost. The reason for that is that maybe he thought Gukesh will play bishop captures on d2, but even with bishop captures on d2, let's say rook captures and knight captures on d5, rook captures, it's still not that great. You can play queen h4, and then if g3, okay, the queen goes to f6, and that's not a great position for white. The bishop will come to e6 with tempo, rook is coming to c8, and okay, maybe you can drag it on, but it is much better for black. However, Gukesh plays an even better move. He plays knight captures on d5, and now after e captures on d5, he plays bishop captures on d2 with check. Rook captures, and now queen to f6 with the f5 square now available for the bishop. And a tempo on the rook is nice, but a tempo on the queen is much nicer. So if he's allowed bishop f5 and rook c8, the game is over. So how can you counter this? Well, Jeffrey finds a way. And obviously such a higher rated player will do that. Knight e2 with bishop to f5 attacking the queen, queen b3, rook 8 to c8 with check, and now just knight c3. And it seems like he defended everything, but there is a crushing line that burns right through white's defenses. So have at it. Feel free to pause the video and win the game for world champion Gukesh while I give you a couple of seconds. Of course, knight captures on f3. No doubt all of you found it. You guys are amazing players, tactically aware and everything. And what do? The rook is attacked, and you just lost a pawn. And, well, you don't have to recapture on f3. For example, it's best not to, but then you also have to admit that you missed knight captures on f3, which is something a grandmaster never does. So you just instantly recapture captures, and now you face the music. Rook to e1 with check, and this is the problem. It doesn't matter how you defend. You're either getting checkmated or you're getting checkmated even faster. So you could defend with the rook. Let's say you play rook to d1, all of a sudden queen h6 check, and that's it. With the rook being pinned, you cannot block with the rook. The king has nowhere to go. You have one more f4 move, and then it's queen captures on f4 with checkmate. And another move that you can play is queen to d1. That was actually played in the game. And okay, Gukesh already sacrificed a knight. If the queen captures the rook, then you have a rook and knight for a queen, which is not terrible, but there is also something else lurking in the position. Feel free to pause the video and end the game on the spot. And by on the spot, I mean mate your opponent in 3 while I give you a couple of seconds. Yes, the move in question is rook captures on c3 check. This is what Gukesh played, and he was in this position on move 18 that Jeffrey Xiong resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Previous video, we had a 23-year-old Spassky ending the game in 23 moves. That beautiful game against Bronstein. It was, what a masterpiece. If you haven't seen it, do check it out. Spassky playing the King's Gambit against Bronstein, that is definitely something else. Here, it's not 18-year-old Gukesh ending the game in 18 moves as he's now 19, but, close. Here you resign because there's nothing for you to do. You can move the rook, but that obviously makes 0 sense as the bishop and rook are covering c2. So you could capture the rook, but then queen captures also makes 0 sense. But, what are you going to do? You either get mated in 2 or mated in 3. You cannot move the queen. The queen is pinned by the rook. So now you have to play rook c2, and now queen captures on c2 will be checkmate as the white queen is still pinned by the rook on e1. So yeah, a very, very interesting game. A bold decision by Jeffrey to go d4 in such a position. He thought probably no one plays it, so no one is prepared for it. He tried it against the world champion, didn't go his way. He was on the receiving end of a miniature. But what are you going to do? That's chess. And if you also want your opponents to be on the receiving end of a miniature and not on a giving end of a miniature, first link in the description below, download Lotus Chess, learn how to play fighting chess, and crush your opponents starting today. I imagine in 3 weeks' time, you could have so many miniatures achieved, so many brilliancies played, you will be able to publish a book of your own games and then impress all of your friends at the bar and the library. So yeah, first link in the description below. Try it out. I've been using it for some 10 days now. I'm beyond impressed. Yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Rajesh Kota, Phil Bauer, Fisher Exteriors, Tavadzva Nagvaru, and Alexander Schaefer for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions, such as this one, and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.